Imagine this. You're scrolling through Instagram and someone you barely know posts a picture of their new car. Not a Ferrari, not a Lamborghini, just a Honda Civic with a spoiler that looks like it was glued on during a midlife crisis. And what do? You click like. Not because you care, not because you're proud of them, but because deep down you're thinking, if I don't, they'll notice. Let's be honest, most of the time you're not liking people. You're playing social chess. You're protecting your image, curating your reputation, and making sure you don't look like an antisocial cave troll. And guess what? That pathetic game is exactly why you're broke, overlooked, and about as influential as the skip ad button. So here's the punch in the face. If you can't figure out how to win people over, you're screwed. Doesn't matter how talented you are, how much money you make, or how many degrees you stack up. If you suck at people, you will lose. At business, at relationships, and yes, even at getting that Honda Civic spoiler level validation online. And that's exactly where this book comes in. Today, we're breaking down Dale Carnegie's legendary book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. This isn't just some dusty self-help relic from 1937, it's the original playbook for human connection, persuasion, and social dominance. Forget networking events with their cheap wine and fake smiles. Carnegie gives you the tools to actually get people on your side, without begging, without manipulation, and without looking like a desperate salesman. But first, who is Dale Carnegie? Carnegie wasn't some random motivational speaker who popped out of nowhere. Born in 1888, raised on a Missouri farm, he started with nothing, literally teaching public speaking at the YMCA before creating courses in communication and leadership that would change the world. His book has sold over 30 million copies worldwide. Presidents, CEOs, and celebrities all studied his methods. And unlike most gurus who scream at you from a rented Lambo, Carnegie tested his principles on real people, real businesses, and real failures. The book itself, it's divided into 4 parts: how to handle people, how to make people like you, how to win people to your way of thinking, and how to be a leader without making everyone hate your guts. Each chapter punches you with stories, examples, and rules that are so simple you'll think, that can't work. But here's the brutal truth, it does. And if you don't use these principles, you're basically walking through life like an emotional caveman, clubbing people with your words and wondering why no one wants to hang out with you. Disclaimer: before we dive in, this video falls under the Fair Use Act. This is not just a summary, it's transformative commentary. We're using Carnegie's work as a foundation, but what you're about to hear isn't just his words repeated. It's an honest, confrontational look at his ideas through the lens of our modern, messed up world. If that makes you uncomfortable, good. That means you probably need it. Welcome to Mindful Reads Hub. Let's get started. The laws of human honey. You know what's hilarious? Everyone thinks they're the good guy in their own story. Murderers write love letters about how gentle they are. Corrupt politicians give speeches about how they're serving the people. Your coworker who's impossible to work with still goes home and tells their family they're misunderstood. We all walk around justifying ourselves while secretly believing we're the heroes. And yet, despite knowing that, most people's first instinct when someone screws up is to criticize. Not guide, not redirect. Just drop a nuke of negativity. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Criticism doesn't work. It doesn't make people better. It doesn't fix the problem. And it sure as hell doesn't make anyone like you. Criticism is basically emotional graffiti. You feel good spraying it, but the mess sticks around for everyone else. That's why Carnegie hammered this point home. If you want to gather honey, don't kick over the beehive. You don't get sweet results by smashing people's sense of pride. Think about it. When was the last time someone criticized you and you thought, wow, thank you, I feel so inspired to change? Exactly. You didn't. You got defensive. You justified yourself. You maybe smiled politely, but inside you were screaming, screw you, I'm fine the way I am. That's how humans work. And yet you still go around pointing out your partner's flaws, nitpicking your coworkers' emails, or trashing your kid's messy room like a drill sergeant. Then you wonder why no one listens to you. Spoiler, it's because you've trained them to resent you. Carnegie didn't just say, don't criticize to be nice. He said it because it's a power move. You want influence? Then stop acting like a human complaint department and start giving people what they crave more than food, money, or sex: recognition. People want to feel important. That's the big secret. From the CEO in the corner office to the barista making your $7 latte, everyone is walking around with a giant invisible sign that reads, "Please, for the love of God, make me feel like I matter." Look at Charles Schwab, one of Andrew Carnegie's proteges. He was paid $1 million a year back in the 1920s, a fortune when people were living on $5 a week. Why? Not because he was the smartest guy in steel manufacturing. He admitted others knew more than him. What he had was the ability to light people up with appreciation, to make them feel like their work mattered. He wasn't out here nitpicking, he was out here praising, encouraging, arousing enthusiasm. That's how you get loyalty. That's how you get results. Now, here's the uncomfortable bit. You probably suck at this. Most people do. Because it's easier to notice flaws than to give genuine appreciation. It takes effort to look for what someone's doing right instead of just hammering them on what's wrong. But if you're too lazy to give praise, don't complain when your relationships rot. Don't complain when your employees quit. Don't complain when your kids grow up resenting you. Because the hard truth is, you trained them to stop caring. And before you start twisting this into fake flattery, stop. People can smell manipulation a mile away. Carnegie wasn't about BS compliments or corporate-style team-building pizza parties. He was about being real. He said, "Give honest and sincere appreciation." That means you don't just throw good job like a dog treat. You actually notice something, call it out, and mean it. That tiny gesture hits harder than criticism ever could. But here's the kicker. None of this works unless you stop making it about you. Carnegie called it arousing in the other person an eager want. Translation? Show them how what you're asking benefits them. Not why it makes your life easier. Not why you want it, but why they'd want it. Because people don't care about your problems. They care about their own. If you want to move people, connect your ask to their desire for importance, recognition, or benefit. That's the honey. Everything else is just you swatting at bees and wondering why you keep getting stung. The real hack of influence isn't fancy words or Jedi mind tricks. It's making people feel good about themselves while aligning that good feeling with what you want. That's it. Simple. But most of you won't do it because your ego is too loud and your need to be right drowns out your need to be effective. You'd rather win arguments than win people. You'd rather criticize than create loyalty. And that's why you'll keep losing until you finally admit the truth. You can't win hearts by tearing people down, you win by lifting them up. Key takeaway: the moment you stop criticizing and start giving honest appreciation, you tap into the deepest human craving, the desire to feel important. Influence isn't about forcing people, it's about making them want to move in your direction. Favorite quote: "Any fool can criticize, condemn, and complain, and most fools do. But it takes character and self-control to be understanding and forgiving." The magnetic first impression. You walk into a room and within 3 seconds, people have already decided what kind of person you are. Not 3 minutes, not 3 hours, 3 seconds. That's all it takes for strangers to scan your face, your posture, your energy, and silently stamp you with a label you're probably stuck with for the rest of the interaction. Think about how insane that is. Your whole identity reduced to the vibe you give off before you even open your mouth. And here's the real kicker. Most people screw this up daily without even realizing it. Carnegie knew this long before TikTok and Instagram turned us all into branding experts. He argued that if you want to be welcome anywhere, you don't need a PhD in communication. You need one thing: genuine interest in other people. That's it. Simple, but almost no one does it. Why? Because most people are selfish conversational parasites. They enter a room worried about how they're being perceived. If they sound smart enough, if their outfit is on point, if their joke will land. Meanwhile, everyone else is too busy worrying about themselves to even care. So instead of being memorable, you end up blending into the wallpaper of insecurity. Here's the brutal truth. People don't like you because of who you are. They like you because of how you make them feel about themselves. You could be the funniest, smartest, richest person in the world. And if you make people feel unimportant, you'll repel them faster than garlic bread at a vampire convention. But if you can look someone in the eyes, smile, not that fake, forced, please like me smile, but the kind that shows you actually enjoy seeing them, you instantly change the energy. Carnegie pointed out that dogs figured this out long before humans did. A dog wags its tail and greets you like you're the most important person in the universe. Meanwhile, you can't even put your phone down long enough to look a cashier in the eye and say hello. Let's get confrontational for a second. When was the last time you gave someone your undivided attention? No, not half scrolling, not nodding while plotting your next sentence, actually listening, actually showing interest. Most of you can't even do it for 5 minutes with your own family, let alone strangers. That's why Carnegie hammered this point. Being genuinely interested in others makes you magnetic. People can sense when you're faking it, and they can sense when you care. You don't need to be clever. You need to stop being so obsessed with yourself. Another weapon in your arsenal is the simplest one: names. Carnegie called a person's name the sweetest and most important sound in any language. Think about it. Your name is the word that represents your entire existence. When someone remembers it, uses it, and respects it, you feel seen. When they forget or butcher it, you feel invisible. Yet most of us don't even try. You meet someone, and 10 seconds later, their name has evaporated because you were too busy planning what you were going to say next. Here's a thought. If you can remember the stats of your favorite football player or the lyrics to some trash pop song, you can remember someone's name. You're not forgetful, you're just self-absorbed. And then there's the actual first impression, the moment when all the little details add up. Your smile, your attitude, your willingness to give attention instead of demand it. Carnegie emphasized that a simple smile, done sincerely, could unlock doors that force never could. And before you roll your eyes, ask yourself this: when's the last time someone's smile genuinely made you feel better about being alive? Now flip it. When's the last time you gave that gift to someone else? Exactly. Most of us walk around with faces that scream, "I'm tired, I'm stressed, don't talk to me," and then wonder why we're not more successful. The tragedy is that this isn't hard. None of this requires money, status, or even insane charisma. It requires something harder: humility. You have to be willing to step out of your own head and actually see people. That's the rare skill in a world drowning in self-obsession. Carnegie's examples, whether it was presidents who remembered doormen's names or executives who smiled their way into boardrooms, weren't gimmicks. They were demonstrations of the one truth most people never learn. People don't follow the smartest person in the room. They follow the one who makes them feel valued. So here's your wake-up call. You're not failing socially because you're boring or awkward or not rich enough. You're failing because you keep making it about you. The secret to being unforgettable isn't showing off. It's showing interest. It's remembering names. It's smiling like you mean it. It's proving with your attention that other people matter. If you can't do that, then don't cry when you get ignored, overlooked, or ghosted. You earned it. Key takeaway. People decide how they feel about you in seconds, and it has almost nothing to do with your achievements. If you want to be magnetic, stop talking about yourself. Start paying real attention and make people feel important the moment they meet you. Favorite quote: a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. The art of spark and connection. Most of you think you're good conversationalists. Spoiler, you're not. You're not talking, you're waiting. You're waiting for your turn to speak, to drop your opinion, your story, your moment. That isn't conversation. It's verbal tennis where you're not even returning the ball, just pocketing it and waiting for applause. And then you wonder why people don't call you back. Why dates don't turn into second dates. Why meetings leave you invisible. The truth is, you're boring. Not because you don't have interesting things to say, but because you refuse to make other people feel interesting. Dale saw this almost a century ago, and it hasn't changed. If you want to be seen as a sparkling conversationalist, you don't need stand-up comedy timing or a PhD in literature. You just need to shut up and listen. Actually listen, because the paradox of human nature is this: people don't really want to hear about you, They want to talk about themselves. You give them that space, and suddenly you're not just liked, you're unforgettable. But here's where you fail. You fake it. You nod your head, toss out an occasional, "Wow, that's crazy," and think that counts. It doesn't. People can smell fake attention like spoiled milk. The kind of listening Dale preached was active, hungry, real. He told stories about people who gave others a platform to share, to feel important, and those people walked away thinking, that was the best conversation I've had in years, even if the listener said almost nothing. Imagine that, being remembered for saying less, not more. Now let's get ugly. Most of you think the way to make people like you is to show off your job, your car, your opinions, your hot takes. No, that just makes you a human PowerPoint presentation. Nobody bonds over your bragging. People bond when they feel seen. You think the guy at the gym wants to hear your workout tips? No, he wants you to notice how much progress he's made. You think your coworker cares about your weekend trip? No, they want you to ask about theirs. That's how connection works. You stop trying to be interesting, and you start being interested. Dale gave an example of a woman who turned every social event into her playground, not by dominating the room, but by pulling stories out of others. She made people feel like the star, and they kept coming back for her. Why? Because she wasn't there to steal the spotlight, she handed it to them. And here's the bitter truth. The spotlight is always more flattering when someone else turns it on you. You think people remember the funny thing you said? No, they remember the way you made them laugh at their own stories. And if you want to push it further, you've got to take interest in what actually matters to the other person. Dale wrote that the easiest way to make someone like you is to talk about what they care about. That's still true, but let's put it in today's terms. Stop hijacking conversations with your garbage. If your friend is obsessed with their dog, stop trying to pivot to crypto. If your colleague is venting about their boss, stop dragging the conversation into your Netflix recommendations. Relevance is respect. Listening is love, and most of you do neither. Now, here's the secret sauce to making people like you instantly. It's energy, real, raw enthusiasm. You can't walk into a room like a drained iPhone battery and expect people to plug into you. Dale showed how enthusiasm, even in small human exchanges, creates instant chemistry. Smile with your eyes, lean in, show up like you care, and suddenly you've hacked the social code most people ignore. The difference between being liked and being forgotten isn't status, it's presence. And I'll be brutally honest here. If you're struggling to make friends, it's probably not because people are fake or nobody gets you. It's because you're self-absorbed. You're rehearsing lines in your head instead of hearing the ones coming out of someone else's mouth. You're broadcasting when you should be tuning in. People don't want to subscribe to your channel if it's all commercials about you. The irony? This isn't hard. It's easier than what you're already doing. Listening requires less energy than talking. Smiling costs nothing. Remembering one detail about someone's life isn't harder than remembering your Wi-Fi password, but most of you won't do it because you're addicted to being the main character in your own dull story. Dale's principle was simple. Step out of your role, let someone else shine, and they'll remember you forever. So the next time you want to connect, try this. Don't talk about yourself. Don't try to impress. Don't rehearse your jokes. Instead, get genuinely curious. Ask better questions. Light people up about what they love. Then shut up and let them glow. Because the truth is, people don't fall in love with you. They fall in love with the version of themselves they see reflected in your attention. And if you can master that, you don't just connect, you spark something bigger. You build loyalty, trust, and influence that lasts long after the conversation ends. Key takeaway: stop chasing attention and start giving it. People will never remember your clever lines, but they'll never forget how you made them feel like the most interesting person in the room. Favorite quote: you can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get people interested in you. How to win without fighting. You think you're good at arguing. You think being right matters. You think if you crush someone with facts, destroy their logic, and leave them speechless, you've won. You didn't win. You just created an enemy who's smiling in your face while plotting to never trust you again. Congratulations, you won the battle and lost the war. Dale called this decades ago. You can't win an argument. Even if you technically win, you don't actually change minds. You harden them. People don't walk away from arguments thinking, wow, I was wrong and I'm so grateful. No, they walk away thinking, screw that guy, I'll show him. Here's the ugly truth. Arguments aren't about truth, they're about ego. That's why political debates don't convert anyone. That's why internet comment sections are digital graveyards of wasted time. That's why your family dinners end in slammed doors. Nobody in an argument is looking for clarity. They're looking for validation. And when you step into that ring, you're not playing chess, you're playing chicken with someone's identity. They'd rather die on the hill of being wrong than admit you were right. Dale didn't say this to be nice. He said it because it's tactical. The fastest way to lose influence is to attack someone's pride. You can be correct and still be completely useless if you can't persuade without bruising egos. His advice? Avoid arguments like you'd avoid drinking bleach. If conflict is inevitable, steer it toward curiosity, not combat. Ask questions, let them talk, find common ground. If you absolutely must admit someone's wrong, do it gently. Or better yet, make them think they discovered it themselves. That's not weakness, that's strategy. But let's be confrontational. Most of you are addicted to being right. You'd rather win the argument than win the person. You'd rather embarrass someone than influence them. You get a cheap dopamine hit from proving your point, then sit there shocked when people stop inviting you to conversations. Here's the reality. You're not proving how smart you are. You're proving how insecure you are. Confident people don't need to argue, they redirect. Weak people need to dominate to feel strong. Dale also flipped the script on another uncomfortable truth. If you're wrong, admit it. Fast. Not grudgingly, not half-heartedly, openly and honestly. You think that makes you look weak? Wrong. It makes you look bulletproof. People respect someone who owns their mistakes because it shows security. The ones who can't admit when they're wrong? Those are the ones no one trusts. We all know that coworker who screws up, then spends more energy covering it than fixing it. Nobody respects them. Compare that to the person who says, yep, that was on me. I'll make it right. Instantly, defenses drop, tension dissolves, and trust builds. Admitting fault isn't losing, it's winning faster. And let's bring it into real life. Think about relationships. You fight with your partner, and instead of admitting your role, you double down. You nitpick. You drag in old battles. You escalate. What happens? A stupid argument about dirty dishes becomes a 3-day Cold War. Now compare that to saying, you're right, I should have handled that better. Done. War avoided. Peace restored. Which version actually wins? Spoiler, it's not the one where you prove you're right. The same goes for leadership. Managers who argue with employees create resentment. Leaders who admit mistakes create loyalty. Parents who double down with kids create rebellion. Parents who admit fault create respect. Everywhere you look, the pattern is the same. Arguing is ego. Admitting is influence. The bottom line is this. Influence isn't about winning fights, it's about avoiding them. It's about letting people save face, even when they're wrong. It's about prioritizing long-term trust over short-term victory. The real power move is to walk away from a fight without throwing a punch and still have the other person feel like they're on your side. Because persuasion without resistance isn't just smart, it's unstoppable. Key takeaway. Winning an argument doesn't make you influential, it makes you resented. The real victory is letting people keep their pride while guiding them subtly to your side. Favorite quote, you can't win an argument. If you lose it, you lose it. And if you win it, you lose it. The psychology of yes. You ever notice how some people can get you to agree to things before you've even realized what happened? It's not witchcraft, it's not manipulation, it's psychology. And the brutal truth is, if you're walking through life without understanding this, you're probably the one always getting manipulated. Because let's face it, most of you think persuasion means talking louder, repeating your point, or grinding someone down until they give in. That's not persuasion, that's bullying. Real influence is smoother. It's silk, not sandpaper. It's invisible strings pulling you toward yes, and you don't even realize you're being moved. Dale called it a drop of honey. If you want someone to listen, don't come at them sharp and sour. Come at them sweet. A gentle approach disarms defenses before they are even raised. Think about it. If someone criticizes you directly, your shields go up instantly. But if they open with appreciation, curiosity, or respect, your walls crumble. You lean in instead of backing away. And yet, most of you walk into disagreements like rams locking horns, angry, rigid, ready to prove the other person wrong. That's why you never get anywhere. You're too busy trying to win points instead of lowering resistance. And here's where Dale hit another nerve. People are more likely to say yes if they've already said yes to something small. He pulled this straight from Socrates. Get agreement early, even on tiny things, and suddenly, momentum takes over. Humans have this weird flaw. Once we start saying yes, we want to stay consistent with it. That's why good salespeople don't start by asking if you want to buy the product. They start by asking if you want to solve a problem. Once you agree with the problem, you're halfway to saying yes to their solution. But what do most of you do? You start with the hard ask, the big confrontation, the one thing guaranteed to get a no. Then you cry about people being stubborn. They're not stubborn, you're just tactless. Dale also tore apart the way most people handle complaints. Spoiler, you're terrible at it. You argue, you deflect, you deny, you treat complaints like personal attacks instead of opportunities to build trust. Here's the thing, when someone complains, they're not just looking for answers, they're looking to be heard. Dale showed that giving someone space to air their frustrations is half the solution. Listen, nod, validate, then respond. But no, you'd rather snap back, defend yourself, or worse, ignore it altogether. And that's why you keep losing customers, friends, even relationships. You think you're protecting yourself, but you're really just proving you don't care. Now let's get confrontational. This isn't just about business or politics. This is about you and your daily life. You want to convince your partner to try something new? Don't start with demands. Start with small agreements. You want your kid to listen? Don't bark orders, get them nodding along with simple, obvious points. You want to stop being the person everyone avoids? Stop treating disagreements like gladiator matches and start treating them like dance steps. Influence isn't about shoving, it's about guiding. Here's the part nobody likes hearing. Persuasion isn't about being right, it's about making the other person feel right. That's why so many of you fail. You're addicted to proving your correctness, but people don't follow correctness. They follow connection. They follow people who make them feel respected, who validate them, who lower their guard with warmth and patience. It's not about tricking them. It's about building enough trust that saying yes feels natural. The irony? You don't even need to master new skills for this. You already know how to do it. You just don't. You're perfectly capable of listening without interrupting, of finding common ground, of softening your approach. But you don't, because your ego is in the driver's seat. You want to win more than you want to connect. You want to control more than you want to persuade. And so you lose over and over again. Dale's wisdom was painfully clear. If you want influence, you need to stop fighting for victory and start guiding people gently toward agreement. Stop forcing no, start inviting yes, because the person who can get others leaning forward, nodding, agreeing, without ever feeling pressured, that person doesn't just win arguments, they win people. And once you can win people, the rest of the world falls in line. Key takeaway: influence isn't about hammering your point. It's about lowering defenses, creating small wins of agreement, and letting trust carry the rest. Favorite quote: if you want to gather honey, don't kick over the beehive. The invisible strings of influence. Let's cut straight to it. If you think you can get what you want in life by pushing, demanding, or barking orders, you've already lost. Nobody likes being shoved. Nobody likes being told what to do. Humans are built to resist force. Tell someone they have to do something, and they'll spend more energy fighting you than it would have taken to just do the thing. That's why the best persuaders never push. They pull. They make you want to step in the direction they've already set. And the truth is, most of you have zero clue how to do that. Dale drilled this point with stories. Instead of ordering cooperation, invite it. Instead of saying, do this, try, how would you handle this? It sounds small, but it flips the psychology on its head. People crave ownership. If they feel like they came up with the solution, suddenly it's not your idea they're resisting, it's their idea they're backing. And let's be honest, your stubborn ego probably hates this because it means giving up control. But control is an illusion anyway. You don't control people. You either win their willingness or you lose their effort. And here's the kicker. Dale gave a formula that works wonders. Appeal to what the other person actually wants. Not what you think they should want. Not what benefits you. What they want. Sounds obvious, right? Yet look around you. Most people in arguments, negotiations, even relationships lead with their own needs. I need this done. I want this from you. I expect this. No wonder you're constantly disappointed. The other person isn't waking up every morning thinking about your goals. They're thinking about theirs. You want their buy-in? Connect your request to their desire. Until you do that, you're just another voice trying to drag them somewhere they don't care to go. Let's make this uncomfortable. When was the last time you actually thought about what the other person wants in raw human terms? Not just lip service. Not a manipulative, if I pretend to care, I'll get my way. I mean genuinely shifting perspective. People want recognition. They want to feel important. They want progress, dignity, and a little slice of pride. Give them that, and you won't need to push. They'll walk in your direction willingly. Deny them that, and they'll resist you out of spite, even if agreeing would have been easier. Think about it in your own life. Ever had a boss who framed everything as an order? You dragged your feet, didn't you? Even if you did the task, you probably resented it, maybe even sabotaged it in little ways. Now think about the rare leader who framed it as, I'd really value your input here, or you're great at this, could you take the lead? Suddenly, you wanted to do it. That's the invisible string. They didn't push you, they made you pull yourself. And don't you dare think this is limited to the workplace, it's everywhere. Parents who bark commands create kids who rebel. Partners who nag create resistance in the very people they love. Politicians who preach create citizens who tune out. But the ones who know how to tie their message to something deeper, the need to feel respected, the craving to feel significant, they win every time. Here's the part you're going to hate. If people constantly resist you, the problem isn't them. It's you. You don't know how to align what you want with what they crave. You treat influence like a hammer when it's really a magnet. And magnets don't force, they attract. Dale's brilliance was stripping persuasion down to one universal law. People don't care about you, they care about themselves. The faster you accept that, the faster you stop being frustrated with humanity and start bending it. You don't need to manipulate, you don't need to con. Just connect what you want to what already lives in their heart. That's the invisible string. And once you master it, you won't need to shout, argue, or fight. People will move with you, and they'll thank you for it. Key takeaway, the best persuaders never force, they align. They link their goals to what others already want, making cooperation effortless. Favorite quote, the world is full of people who are grabbing and self-seeking, so the rare individual who unselfishly tries to serve others has an enormous advantage. The Hollywood formula of persuasion. You think people make decisions based on facts? Wrong. Dead wrong. If facts ruled the world, nobody would smoke, nobody would eat McDonald's, and nobody would swipe their credit card at 3 a.m. for junk they don't need. But people do it every single day because facts are weak against feelings. The truth is, humans are emotional animals who dress up their instincts with logic after the fact. That's why you keep losing arguments, failing to persuade, or watching people nod at your reasoned points and then go do the exact opposite. You're trying to win with PowerPoint slides when you should be using Hollywood. Dale said it plainly, an appeal that touches people's emotions beats a pile of rational arguments every single time. He shared examples of speakers who could lecture endlessly and put a crowd to sleep, while another person could walk up, tell a simple story, and move people to act instantly. Why? Because stories bypass the brain's defenses. They don't just tell you something, they make you feel it. And once you feel it, you're already halfway to believing it. Now, here's where most of you are screwing this up in real life. You're boring, you explain too much, you defend too much, and you try to logic people into compliance. That's why your presentations bomb, why your conversations die, and why your big pitch gets ignored. You're treating persuasion like a math problem when it's really theater. Think about it. Movies rake in billions not because they teach us facts, but because they make us cry, laugh, rage, and hope. Dale literally called this out. If Hollywood and TV use drama to capture attention, why don't you? Because you're afraid of being dramatic. You want to play it safe. You don't want to risk looking too emotional, and that's exactly why people forget you 2 minutes after you stop talking. Safe is forgettable. Drama is sticky. Emotion is magnetic. You remember the coach's halftime speech that gave you chills, not the quarterly sales report. You remember the politician's slogan that stirred you up, not their 12-point policy memo. If you want to move people, you need to stop being afraid of tapping into emotion, even if it makes you uncomfortable. Dale also pointed out something you probably avoid like the plague. Sometimes, when logic and calm reasoning fail, you gotta crank it up. He talked about using dramatization, making a point so vivid, so striking, it cuts through the noise. And let's face it, most of you are noise. Everyone's talking, few are remembered. If you want people to not just hear you, but act on what you say, you've got to break through the fog with something bold. That's why salespeople bring out demos. That's why activists hold up shocking images. That's why the best teachers don't just lecture. They act, they perform, they make the lesson feel alive. And here's the kicker. This doesn't mean manipulating people. It means meeting them where they actually live, in the land of feelings, not facts. You can either complain about how irrational people are, or you can accept it and master it. Guess which one gets results? Let's make it practical. Stop spewing data in your next argument and instead tell a story. Want your coworker to see why deadlines matter. Don't just say, we'll lose efficiency. Tell them about the last time a delay cost real money, or paint a picture of the client walking away. Want your kid to value honesty? Don't lecture. Share a time dishonesty burned you badly. Want to inspire your team? Don't dump bullet points. Paint a vision of where they'll be if they stick together and fight for it. Stories stick, emotions spread, logic alone dies. Dale was decades ahead of his time here. Long before Instagram, viral videos, and TED Talks, he was saying the same thing. You're in the business of theater. Every conversation is a stage, and you're either putting on a show worth remembering or you're background noise. And right now, too many of you are background noise. Key takeaway. Persuasion isn't about facts. It's about theater. If you want to move people, you've got to dramatize your point, tell stories, and ignite emotion. Favorite quote, merely stating a truth isn't enough. The truth has to be made vivid, interesting, dramatic. You have to use showmanship. The gentle art of correction. You ever notice how quick people are to correct others? Your boss points out your mistake in front of everyone at the Monday meeting. Your partner throws a sarcastic jab when you forget to take the trash out. Or maybe you're the one dishing it out. You see someone screw up and you feel like it's your sacred duty to fix them. And yet, here's the truth. Nobody, and I mean nobody, has ever been corrected into greatness. They've only been encouraged into it. But still, most of you go around acting like human error police, handing out tickets and expecting people to thank you. Spoiler alert, they won't. They'll hate you for it. Dale nailed this decades ago. He said if you must find fault, do it so carefully that the other person actually wants to improve. Most of you do the exact opposite. You swing the hammer of criticism, then wonder why people resent you instead of respect you. Let's be real. If someone constantly called you out, nitpicked you, humiliated you, would you feel motivated? Or would you feel like throwing their clipboard at their face? Exactly. People don't grow under attack, they shrink. But encourage them, show them you've been there, admit your own screw-ups before pointing out theirs. That's when they start listening. Think about it like this. Imagine you've got spinach stuck in your teeth. If someone yells across the room, "Hey idiot, clean your teeth," you're embarrassed, humiliated, pissed. But if someone leans in, lowers their voice and quietly says, "Hey, just so you know, you've got a little something there," you're grateful. Same truth, different delivery. One burns the bridge, the other builds it. That's the game. And yet so many people lose it daily. Parents blow up at kids for small mistakes, then wonder why their kids tune them out. Managers publicly shame employees for errors, then wonder why morale is trash. Partners nag each other until the relationship rots, then ask, what happened? What happened is this. You forgot that people are fragile egos wrapped in skin. You can't just hack at them and expect loyalty. Dale hammered another brutal truth. Before you criticize anyone, talk about your own mistakes. Why? Because it lowers defenses. It tells the other person, I'm not above you, I'm human too. And suddenly, correction stops being an attack and becomes a shared lesson. It's the difference between you're late again, you're unreliable, versus I used to be awful with time too. Here's what helped me. One sparks resistance, the other sparks reflection. But here's the part you don't want to hear. The real reason you correct harshly is because it makes you feel superior. It's not about helping the other person, it's about flexing your own ego. Admit it. You feel good calling someone out. It makes you feel sharp, in control, like the smartest person in the room, but it's fake power. Real power is when you can correct someone and they walk away respecting you more, not less. And if you don't know how to do that, you're not leading, you're just lashing out. So let's confront the uncomfortable. Next time you're tempted to set someone straight, stop and ask yourself, do you want to fix the problem or do you just want to feed your pride? Because if it's the second, you're just another critic in a world drowning in critics. Everyone's a critic, but only a rare few know how to guide without leaving scars. That's what separates bosses from leaders, parents from mentors, and nagging partners from ones you'd actually die for. Key takeaway. Correction isn't about proving you're right. It's about helping someone want to do better. If you can't correct without crushing, you're not leading, you're just bruising egos. Favorite quote, a person's name is to that person the sweetest sound in any language. But right after that, if you must find fault, begin with honest appreciation. Authority without arrogance. Alright, let's drag this into the light. You want respect, you want authority, you want people to listen when you speak, to follow when you lead, and to stay loyal when things get hard. But here's the catch. Most of you don't want to earn it, you want to demand it, and that's why you fail. Nobody on this planet likes to be ordered around. Not your kids, not your employees, not your friends, not even your dog. The moment you bark commands like a discount dictator, people either resist you, fake compliance, or plot behind your back. Authority that needs to shout isn't authority. It's insecurity wearing a mask. Dale's point is savage in its simplicity. People don't follow because you tell them to, they follow because they choose to. And the moment you forget that, you've lost the game. Think about it. When was the last time you were excited to obey an order? You weren't. You either complied reluctantly or silently rebelled. True leaders get cooperation without turning every interaction into a contest of wills. They invite people in, they frame requests as opportunities, and they make others feel like participants rather than pawns. But most of you throw your title or your status around like a badge of honor, when really it's a crutch because you don't have the interpersonal skills to lead without it. And let's address the ugly truth. You love making people lose face. You don't even realize it, but your ego thrives on those little power trips, embarrassing someone in front of their peers, proving you're smarter, reminding everyone who's in charge. But here's the irony. Every time you make someone lose face, you're actually losing something yourself. Trust, respect, influence, because no one forgets humiliation. People don't plot revenge against leaders who inspire them. They plot revenge against leaders who degrade them. Dale warns you, let the other person save face. And if you can't do that, don't be surprised when the same people you humiliate today are the ones sabotaging you tomorrow. Now, here's where it gets even more uncomfortable. Leadership isn't about knowing everything. It's about making people want to do things they otherwise wouldn't. And the way you do that isn't by screaming louder or micromanaging tighter. It's by making them feel like their effort matters. A good leader makes you want to rise, not just because you have to, but because you want to prove them right about you. That's the whole trick. Spur people on, not with fear, but with recognition, with belief, with a challenge that feels achievable. But what do most of you do? You nag. You nitpick, you dangle punishment instead of dangling possibility, and then you wonder why everyone is disengaged. Let's make it concrete. Picture two managers. One walks up to you and says, "I need this done by 5. Don't screw it up." You do it, but your heart's not in it. The other walks up and says, "You've got the sharpest eye for detail on this team. I know you'll nail it by 5. Same task, different delivery. One drains energy, the other builds it. Which leader would you actually want to follow? Exactly. Authority without arrogance is about this exact shift. Stop commanding, start inspiring. The uncomfortable reality is that if you have to remind people you're the boss, you've already failed as one. Real authority is quiet. It's the respect that makes people lean in when you speak, not because they fear you, but because they value you. It's the kind of authority that doesn't need to demand compliance because people want to give it. That's the science of respect, and most of you are flunking it daily because you mistake being loud for being strong. Key takeaway: leadership isn't about control, it's about cooperation. The strongest leaders aren't the ones people obey, they're the ones people choose to follow, even when they don't have to. Favorite quote: "A great man shows his greatness by the way he treats little men." The alchemy of belief. Here's the thing about people: you treat them like trash, they'll live down to it. You treat them like champions, and 9 times out of 10, they'll bleed themselves dry trying to prove you right. That's not psychology, that's raw human nature. The problem? Most of you are absolute amateurs at pulling this off. You label people by their worst mistakes, then act shocked when they never improve. You point out flaws with surgical precision, then cry victim when their self-confidence collapses. You're basically planting weeds and then complaining that the garden looks ugly. Dale calls it out clearly. If you want people to change, you don't shove their weaknesses in their faces. You give them a new identity to live up to. Call someone lazy long enough and they'll stop trying. Call someone responsible long enough and suddenly they'll start double checking the locks at night. We're all fragile when it comes to identity. The names people give us become cages or wings, depending on how they're used. But most of you wield words like blunt weapons, not realizing they're also the most precise tools you've got for shaping behavior. And here's where it gets confrontational. Stop pretending you're some kind of realist when you tear people down. You're not being honest, you're being lazy. It takes 0 effort to point out what's wrong with someone. Anyone with half a brain can spot flaws. The skill, the art, is framing those flaws in a way that makes the person want to rise above them. Instead of saying, "You're careless," try, "I know you're usually sharp with details, I'm counting on that." That's not manipulation, it's leadership. But most of you cling to your criticism like it's some badge of authenticity, when in reality it's just cowardice dressed up as truth-telling. Dale goes further. Don't just give people a name to live up to, but make their faults feel small and solvable. Nobody wants to climb a mountain if you describe it like Everest, but tell them it's just a hill and suddenly they're lacing up their shoes. Think about it. When was the last time you actually tried something you believed was impossible? You didn't. You checked out. The same thing happens in relationships, in workplaces, in families. If you frame someone's screw up as catastrophic, they'll freeze. If you frame it as fixable, they'll try. The trick isn't minimizing reality, it's maximizing possibility. And finally, here's the dagger. If you want people not just to comply, but to enjoy doing what you ask, stop making it about duty and start making it about dignity. Dale insists that the ultimate motivator isn't fear or money, it's pride. When people feel proud of what they're doing, when they feel you believe in them, they'll do it not because they have to, but because they want to. You want an employee to stay late? Don't bark, finish this or else. Try. You're the only one I trust to get this right. Watch how fast that person grabs a coffee and leans in. So here's the real punch. The alchemy of belief is about weaponizing faith. Not blind faith, but intentional, directed belief in others. People live up or down to the story you tell about them. If your words chain them, don't be surprised when they stay stuck. But if your words crown them, don't be surprised when they rise. You've been misusing the single greatest tool you have in relationships, the power to shape identity. Stop using it like a hammer and start using it like a chisel. Key takeaway: if you want transformation, give people a name worth living up to. Belief is contagious, but only if you dare to spread it. Favorite quote, give a dog a good name and he'll live up to it. Conclusion. You've just had 10 heavy doses of truth. Raw, unfiltered, no sugarcoating. And if you were paying attention, then you already know this isn't just a book about winning friends. This is about power. It's about influence. It's about controlling the invisible threads that make human beings tick. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Whether you admit it or not, you're already playing this game. Every time you open your mouth, every time you raise your eyebrows, every time you decide to criticize or compliment, you're pulling strings. The only question is, are you doing it like an amateur who ruins everything, or like a pro who turns every interaction into leverage? Dale didn't write a self-help manual. He wrote the playbook of human nature. You've seen it now. Appreciation opens doors, first impressions burn into memory, conversations build loyalty, persuasion works best without conflict. Yes is a domino effect. Cooperation comes from showing people what they already crave. Stories beat facts every time. Correction doesn't have to destroy, authority doesn't have to shout, and belief can turn ordinary people into champions. That's not self-help, that's survival. That's warfare. And let's be real, you've been guilty of breaking every single one of these laws. You criticize instead of appreciating. You stumble through first impressions like a drunk giraffe. You argue to win instead of persuade to connect. You think barking orders is leadership. You slap labels on people and wonder why they never change. Don't lie, you do this, and it's costing you friendships, jobs, relationships, and opportunities you don't even know you've lost. The harsh truth? Nobody cares about your intentions. People only experience the version of you that they interact with. If that version is cold, critical, forgettable, and self-absorbed, then don't be surprised when doors stay shut. But if you start applying this playbook, if you start using your words like honey, your presence like a magnet, your conversations like fire, your influence like an art, then everything changes. People lean in, people remember, people follow. So here's the bottom line. Stop being lazy, stop being careless, stop hiding behind excuses like, that's just how I am. No, it's not. That's just how you've chosen to be. You can do better, and this book shows you exactly how. And if you're smart, you won't just nod at what you've heard here, you'll grab the full book and devour it yourself. Because let me be clear, I gave you the punchlines, but the meat is in the details. Dale Carnegie didn't just write history, he wrote the user manual for human connection. And if you don't own this book, you're walking around without a map in a jungle that's eating you alive. Influence is not about tricks, it's about transformation, yours and theirs. You rise when you make others rise. You win when you stop trying to win. You lead when people choose to follow you, not because you force them to. That's the alchemy of belief. That's the ultimate human hack. Call someone a champion long enough, and they'll rise to prove you right. And listen, if this hit you, if this got under your skin, if it made you uncomfortable, that's the point. Growth doesn't come from comfort, it comes from confrontation. So confront yourself, confront your habits, confront the version of you that's been sleepwalking through human relationships. Then, grab the book, study it, and apply it, because the difference between the people who stay ordinary and the people who build extraordinary lives is that one group keeps making excuses while the other learns how to influence. This is your moment. Don't just scroll to the next distraction. Act. Go pick up How to Win Friends and Influence People. Read it, use it, live it. And if you've got the guts, stick around here, because the truth doesn't care about your feelings, and neither do I.